One of the 5 ingredients in this dish shows up in both the grilled cheese and the tomato soup. And I think it's the secret to elevating this simple classic to restaurant quality. But it's not just the ingredient itself, which is actually very common and probably in your kitchen right now. It's how this ingredient is used and in what quantities it's used that will take this soup sandwich combo to the next level. See if you can guess what the secret ingredient is and write your answers in the comments below. Hello everybody, this is the Rapscallion and we're making restaurant quality grilled cheese and tomato soup using only 5 ingredients and doing it for under $3.33 a serving. Let's do this. We're going to start with a can of whole peeled tomatoes, half an onion, and some butter. We're not going to use this whole stick, we're going to use about 3 tablespoons. Once you've got your tomatoes, half an onion, and 3 tablespoons of butter ready, go ahead and get a small pot on the stove over low heat. Go ahead and add your 3 tablespoons of butter to that pot. Next, we're going to roughly chop our half onion into thirds or sixths and add that to that same pot. Go ahead and open your can of tomatoes and add that to the pot with your onions and butter. And those are the ingredients that are going to go into the soup. I know it might sound too good to be true, but stick with me here. We're going to bring this pot to a simmer over low to medium-low heat. Feel free to add half a teaspoon of salt at this point. We are going to add more salt later if needed. And we're going to let this simmer for approximately 45 minutes. Don't worry, if the soup seems like it's getting a little too thick, we are going to add water back to the soup once we go to blend it. After about 45 minutes, the onions should be very soft, the tomatoes should be almost falling apart, and there should be a pretty fantastic aroma coming from the pot. We're ready to take the soup off the stove, let it cool for a minute or two, and get it blended up. You can use a typical blender or an immersion blender for this. Beware, if you're using an immersion blender, you're going to want to cover the pot as it can be kind of messy. I start by pouring the pot into the blender and I'll blend it up for a bit. And then I'm going to come back and add some water to loosen up the soup. Taste it. If it tastes good, you're ready to move on. Otherwise, you can add some more salt or some more water if you want to loosen it up even more. We'll pour the soup back into the original pot, and this is where we can keep it warm. We can also add more salt if needed, or adjust consistency with more water. Let's move on to the grilled cheese. Our ingredients for the grilled cheese are bread. I'm using a nice locally made sourdough. Cheese, of which I'm using an aged sharp cheddar. And finally, butter, this time softened. We're going to spread butter on one side of each slice of bread. And when I say spread butter, I mean spread a lot of butter. Like maybe 2 tablespoons on each slice. If you don't use enough butter, you're not going to get proper browning, and it's just not going to taste as good. So again, lots of butter. 1, ideally 2 tablespoons on each slice. Next, we'll slice the cheese. I'm going to recommend about 2 ounces. I like to slice it thin and slowly add it as I grill the grilled cheese. You'll see how I do that, but that's not absolutely necessary. In the end, you just want to make sure you have enough cheese to make you happy. We are ready to cook our grilled cheese. I'm going to start with a burner over low heat. Put a pan on it. I'm using a cast iron pan, but you can use whatever you like. I like to cook my grilled cheese over low heat. I find that if I try to cook it faster, I either end up burning the bread, or more likely I wind up with cheese that's not melted all the way through. Go ahead and put a slice of bread, butter side down, in the pan, and then start to layer your cheese on. I do 2 kind of weird things when I make my grilled cheese. 1, I cook it open-faced at first so I can make sure the cheese is melting. And 2, I don't put all my cheese on right away. I let the first layer of cheese melt, and then I go back and put more cheese on. And then when I'm ready to flip the grilled cheese is when I'll put the other slice of bread on. But I leave it open until then. I really have no idea if this makes a huge difference or not. Feel free to cook it with the other slice of bread on top and put all your cheese on at once if you want. This is just how I've been doing it for a long time and it works well for me. Once you've got some nice browning on that bottom slice of bread, we're gonna go ahead and put the other slice on top, butter side up, and flip the sandwich. And we're gonna cook the other side the same way we cooked the first side, slow and low until we have some nice browning. Total cooking time when you're doing it this way could be as long as 30-35 minutes, so you could actually start this while you're making your soup if you'd like. When the sandwich is done, we are ready to eat. If you haven't guessed already, the secret ingredient is butter and lots of it. You may have noticed, but we're using almost a whole stick of butter for this meal. While you're unlikely to win any awards for healthy cooking, you will be happier, I think, in terms of flavor and texture. And while I did this for around $3.30 a serving, you could probably bring that cost down to around $2 if you used lower quality bread and cheese. Though again, I don't think you'll be as happy with the end results in terms of how it tastes. Now, we eat.